माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन जमुना तीरा वनचारी जमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन जमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajakacarya, Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajakacarya, Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhant Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopaha Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. This morning we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4th, entitled The Creation of Fourth Order, Chapter 15th, King Pruthu's Appearance and Coronation, Text 17 and 18. Text 17 does not have purport, so I'll just recite and see the translation. And today's verse for recitation will be text 18. Text 17. Dasachandram asim rudra shatachandram tathambika somamrita mayam ashvams Tashtarupashrayam Ratham. Translation. Lord Shiva presented him with a sword within a shell marked with 10 moons, and his wife, the goddess Durga, presented him a shield marked with 100 moons. The moon demigod presented him with horses made of nectar, and the demigod Vishwakarma presented him with a very beautiful chariot. Text 18. Agni Ajagavam Chapam Suryo Rashmimayan Ishun Bhu Paduke Yogamayau Dyahu Pushpa Avalim Anu Aham Agnir Ajagavam Chapam Agnir Ajagavam Chapam Suryo Rashmimayanishun Suryo Rashmimayanishun Bhupaduke Yogamayau Bhupaduke Yogamayau Dyaha Pushpavalim Anvayam Dhyau Pushpavalim Anvayam Agnir Ajagavam Chapam Suryo Rashmimayanishun Bhupaduke Yogamayau Dvau Pushpavalim Anvayam Agnirajagavam Chapam Suryo Rashmimayanishun Bhupaduke Yogamayau Dhyau Pushpavalim Anvayam. Please recite. Agnirajagavam Chapam Suryo Rashmimayanishun Bhupaduke Yogamayau Dhyau Pushpavalim Anvayam Agnirajagavam Chapam Suryo Rashmimayanishun Bhupaduke Yogamayau Dhyau Pushpavalim Anvayam Agnirajagavam Chapam Suryo Rashmimayanishun Dhūpaduke Yogamayau Dvau Pushpavalim Anvayau. Anybody from Vaishnavis? We'll see word to word meaning. Agnir, the demigod of fire. Ajagavam, made of horns of goats and cows. Chapam, above. Surya, the sun god. Rashmimayan, brilliant as sunshine. Ishun, arrows. Bhu, Bhumi, the predominating goddess of the earth. Paduke, two slippers. Yogamayo, full of mystic power. Dhyau, the demigods in outer space. Pushpa, of flowers. Avalim, presentation. Anvaham, day after day. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. The demigod of fire, Agni, presented him with a bow made of the horns of goat and cows. The sun god presented him with arrows as brilliant as sunshine. The predominating deity of Bhurloka presented him with slippers of mystic power. The demigods from the outer space brought him presentations of flowers again and again. So please recite the translation in response. The demigod of fire, Agni, presented him with a bow made of the horns of goats and cows. The sun god presented him with arrows as brilliant as sunshine. The predominating deity of Bhurloka presented him with slippers full of mystic power. The demigods from outer space brought him presentations of flowers again and again. Purport. This verse describes that the king's slippers were invested with mystic powers. Paduke Yogamayo. Thus, as soon as the king placed his feet in the slippers, they would immediately carry him wherever he desired. Mystic yogis can transfer themselves from one place to another whenever they desire. A similar power was invested in the slippers of King Prithu. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So first of all, I seek blessings of all the assembled devotees, in particular His Grace Anandmay Prabhu, so that I can speak something worthwhile. In this discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam, we are seeing a very mystical thing that is happening, that from a dead body, a living entity is appearing. Not just living entity, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself is appearing. So generally in this material world, we have experience of a living entity giving birth to living entity. But our tiny intelligence will not be able to fathom how, even if somebody is dead, by a special mystical way, he can give birth to his offsprings. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Bhagwan ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Mai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So, Prithu Maharaj had appeared from the churning of the hands of Vena. And as soon as Prithu Maharaj appeared, of course, there is description that Prithu Maharaj did not appear alone. He came with the partial expansion of goddess of fortune named Archi. Mhm. So here, after he appeared, the great sages and the Brahmanas have certified that he can be considered as incarnation of Lord. Mhm. So there is description how Brahma examined certain symptoms by which he certified that the person who has appeared is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hmm. So now, having understood that Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared, it definitely means that Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya cha Dushkritam. So all these miscreants who were creating nuisance in the presence of Vena and in the absence of Vena will now be eradicated. Hmm. So in general, people become happy when Supreme Personality of Godhead appears. Hmm. Like generally also, when we celebrate also the appearance of Supreme Lord, we feel happy. We have celebrations on that particular day. Hmm. So now here, all the demigods, having certified that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared, and whatever is needed for them to reciprocate, they are coming and offering various presentations. Hmm. In the last 4 5 verses, we have seen how various sacred items and special items were offered to Prithu Maharaj. Hmm. There were whisks offered, flower garland was offered, a special helmet, also known as kiritam, was offered to Prithu Maharaj. Hmm. Yamaraj offered a spectre. Spectre means a kind of a stick by which he can rule the world or punish the sinful people. Hmm. So these are all duties of a king, and all these demigods are offering them various things. Hmm. Brahma offered a garment of spiritual knowledge. Hmm. Saraswati offered him a transcendental necklace. Lord Vishnu presented him Sudarshan Chakra. Lakshmi ji blessed him with imperishable opulences. Hmm. Lord Shiva gave him a sword marked with a sheath of 10 moons. Hmm. And Durga offered him a shield marked with 100 moons. Hmm. The moon god presented him horses made of nectar. And Vishwakarma offered him a very beautiful chariot. So sometimes these offerings made are very, very mystical. Hmm. Like for example, here in the present verse is explaining that Agni presented him a bow made of horns of goats and cows. Hmm. And the sun god presented him arrows as brilliant as sunshine. Hmm. So here, uh, although when I read this translation and purport, word to word translation and purport, I mean, for me at least, it seemed there may be some typing mistake or no something. He says Bhur. The word to word meaning says Bhumi, the predominating deity of goddess of earth, whereas the translation says the predominating deity of Bhur Loka. So I don't know the word Bhu Paduke Yoga Mayayau. But however, the focus here is he was awarded a slippers. Now slippers generally is a very ordinary thing. But these slippers were special because it was full of mystic power. And of course, the other demigods offered him flowers. So sometimes in the uh, video presentations also it is shown like something transcendental happens and suddenly the flower starts falling from the sky. That kind of description is there here. So sometimes it is described like that when Lord Ramachandra was garlanded by Mother Sita in her Swayamvara, all the demigods from the outer space came and showered flowers. Like that, various instances are there. Like for example, when Bhishma also took that great vow that I will not get married and I will protect the king of Hastinapur till the time I am alive. there also there was a shower from the demigods. Hmm. So there are some specific demigods who do that in the outer space. Whenever they see that the Supreme Lord has appeared, they come and offer flowers. Now here in the purport, Prabhupada is giving emphasis on a special kind of a slippers. Hmm. So generally in the material world, we do not have a very live example of such instances, because this material world, we have very very limited experience of this material world. Hmm. And Bhagavatam speaks from a very transcendental experience. Hmm. So sometimes there might be incompatibility in our understanding and the Bhagavatam's presentation. Hmm. There are many many such instances where Bhagavatam presents a subject matter which is beyond human, what do you say, comprehension. Hmm. Like for example, it is described that Daksha begot 10,000 sons. Hmm. So Daksha was so expert that when he wants to beget children, he can decide how many in number and what is the gender, right? Which is humanly not possible. Hmm. Even in the current day science, although they can describe the gender of a particular progeny only after a few months. Hmm. But here, Daksha, even before he wants to have children, he decides that I want 10,000 children, all male. Hmm. Imagine in this material world, there can be maximum, like, very rarely you see that twins are born. Or very, very rarely you have seen that, four children are born on like one mother at a time. Very rarely you will see anyone who is going beyond like four or eight. Humanly impossible for such things to happen. Hmm. But Bhagavatam presents this idea. Daksha begot 10,000 sons, and again 1,000 sons, and again 60 daughters. Right? So it is beyond human comprehension how it happens. Hmm. Like here, you have a specific shoes. Hmm. By wearing the shoes, if you just decide that you want to go to United States of America, hmm, without visa, without any flight, you can directly present yourself in whichever country you want. Hmm. You don't need any other formalities. You just wear the shoes and you can go there. Imagine Bhagavatam would have given more description where these padukas are there present now. Everyone would have tried to rush there and try to acquire these mystic powers. Hmm. But the whole idea is that these mystic powers do exist. Hmm. And just because we do not understand, we may think it as kalpana, or a poetic explanation of things. Hmm. In Mahabharata also, you will see many, many times very, very mystical things happening. Hmm. So in Mahabharata, we see that Arjuna uh, had a special bow called Gandiva, hmm, and he was benedicted by that Gandiva bow by Varuna on insistence of Agni. Hmm. So Gandiva bow, so to say, was definitely special. But apart from that, he had another, what do you say, supplementary benediction along with that Gandiva. Hmm. So he had two quivers of arrows. Hmm. Like if you have seen that if any Kshatriya is fighting, he keeps his arrow on his back, uh, on a basket kind of a thing called quiver. Hmm. So he removes the arrow and shoots the arrow. Hmm. So in the Bhagavata or in the Mahabharata, when there is description that Arjuna shot millions of arrows, hmm, so sometimes our mind starts calculating, how it is possible. In the quiver which you can wear on your back, you can maximum have like 20-30 arrows, or say maximum 50 arrows. How can you have like millions of arrows? Right? So that goes beyond our material understanding. Hmm. But the benediction that, uh, along with that Gandiva bow, that quiver of arrows was, no matter how many arrows he removes, it again refills automatically. Hmm. So even if you remove like 100 arrows, it keeps on bringing out arrows from that. The arrows will never get exhausted. So that was the special benediction Arjuna had. So that is the reason why he could shoot millions of arrows, and still he will not fall off short of arrows. You won't find Arjuna after shooting some arrows, he will say, "Time, please. Go to somebody, please give me a quiver of arrows." Again, quiver of arrows, come, again shoot. Nothing like that. So these are mystic powers which existed in other yugas and higher people. In this modern science, we see the inventions of modern science are very gross. Like, for example, if you want to kill a particular person using mechanical arrangements like bomb, you cannot have a specific target. Like, you kill a particular person using a bomb, area around that place or people living in around that place also will get killed or will get destroyed. Especially when you are using a very what do you say, powerful weapons. Like, for example, in the history we have seen when one country bombs a nuclear bomb, there is a huge mass scale destruction. Even though sometimes the enemy is between the president and one president, you cannot just go and kill that one president and say that okay, it is done. Whereas in the Puranas we see that people were having special benedictions in the weapons. Like Ashwatthama had a weapon similar to Brahmastra, or it is described as Brahmastra only, right? So the Ashwatthama, the special capability was that you take a person's name or you remember that particular person while shooting an arrow, it will go and kill only that person, no matter where that person is hiding. It's the case in the hand. Ashwatthama had shot an arrow to kill the grandson of Pandavas, that is Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj was in the womb of her mother named Uttara. So Uttara had no danger from that Brahmastra. Only Parikshit had that danger. Imagine Parikshit inside the womb. Can you kill a person with a weapon who is inside the womb, not affecting the mother? But such mystic powers existed. There were specific mantras by chanting, if you shoot an arrow anywhere, that arrow will go and strike that person whom you have intended to hit. So that was the special capabilities of people in various ages. We all know Lord Ramachandra's father. I don't know specifically who gave that benediction to him, but he had a very special chariot called as, that's the reason why he is called as Dasharatha. So this can mean many things. It can also mean that he has 10 chariots, or it can also mean that his chariot, he has the capability of driving chariot in 10 different directions. Now, generally, human comprehension has only 4 directions, because we generally think a chariot's motion in only 2-dimensional range, north, east, west, south. So how Dasharatha means 10 directions? How it can go in 10 different directions when we have only 4 directions? So sometimes it is described that even the corner between the 2 dimensions is also one more dimension. Like north and east, the corner of northeast is also one more dimension. But we do not understand how northeast can also be a direction. When north is a direction, east is a direction. How northeast also can be direction, we don't know. And apart from having that 4 other dimensions, the chariot used to go up and can come down also. So this is something which is unheard of. You will never see that a vehicle which is intended to move in the road suddenly starts flying. People are trying to invent all that also. But Dasharatha, without having any great difficulty, he just had that capability. Any chariot he climbs, he can drive the chariot up also. It is not that some mechanical arrangement needed in that chariot, some special fuel needed in that chariot. He just by his mystic power, he used to take the chariot up and bring the chariot down also. So such mystic things do happen. Yet another example from Mahabharata was, if I am not wrong, Yudhishthira, while he was in his exile, one day Surya Dev appeared in front of him, and he gave him Akshay Patra. So this Akshay Patra is also very special bowl. Just like Dhanvantri appeared from the churning of milk ocean, he had a very special kalasha. And in that kalasha was Amrita. So by drinking that Amrita, the life the life of a person can be elongated to thousands of years. So the modern man is trying to create some medicine by which the life of a person can be elongated, right? So nonetheless, their attempt is not new, but yet it is foolish because it does not happen by its own arrangement. When Supreme Lord designs some mystical power, then it can happen. So the whole arrangement of having that nectar is that once you drink the nectar, even if your body has some deformations or cuttings or wounds, because you have drank the nectar, immediately that wound will disappear, and you will again be as youthful as you were when you drank that nectar. And that nectar was so special that when you drank, you will not become old. You will remain youthful. It is not that if your life is being enriched by the nectar, say for thousands of years, it is not that you will become old at the age of 100 and you're dragging that old age all along. It's not like that. You will have youthful body. So that were the special capabilities of mystic powers. So speaking of this Akshay Patra, Surya gave to Yamaraj, to Yudhishthira. And the speciality of this Akshay Patra was, no matter how much you take out food, it will never end. Just like Arjuna had that quiver of arrows, no matter how much many arrows you take out, it won't end. Similarly, Akshay Patra, no matter how much food you take out, the food will never end. So Bhima was the person who was most happy with the Akshay Patra than anybody else. Because it is described that he used to eat sometimes as much as 100 people. On an average, he used to eat as much as all other Pandavas used to eat. Like Yudhishthira, Arjuna, Nakula and Savdev, all together, including Draupadi, how much they used to eat, Bhima used to eat alone. So this was their strategy also. Where before even having Akshay Patra, when they lived in the forest like an incognito, and they were living on begging of alms. So whatever alms they used to get, they used to divide in half, food alms. Half they used to give to Bhima, and half they used to divide amongst themselves. So Bhima had that special ability to eat a lot. So Bhima was the most happiest person with this Akshay Patra, because now you can eat as much as you want. So this was a special mystic powers people had, that which will go beyond our mechanical arrangements. Apart from that, when we speak about Ashtasiddhis, these Ashtasiddhis may sometimes seem very very special. Like for example, Anima Siddhi means you become smaller than the smallest. Imagine you are 6 feet or 7 feet tall. Suddenly you get a Siddhi called Anima Siddhi. You can become as tiny as few millimeters, and you can enter anywhere you want. With the small door gaps also you can enter. And after coming out with the same Anima Siddhi, again you can restore your form. Imagine nobody has such mystic powers today. Mahima Siddhi means you can become as big as you want, as much as you can lift the mountain also. So you can see, like for example, Hanuman ji also had all these siddhis. When he went to Lanka, when he had to fly over from Rameshwaram to Lanka just to examine whether Mother Sita was really living in Lanka, he flew off. Now, how many of us can often just jump off? Like, almost, it is described, it is 100 yojanas. And 100 yojanas means 800 miles. And 800 miles means almost 1240 kilometers. Hmm? So at that time, there were no athletic competitions for long jumps, right? But still, Hanuman, without any great difficulty, could jump off because he had this siddhis of becoming lighter than the lightest. There is another mystic power called Laghima, which means you can become lighter. Hmm? Just imagine, uh, just speaking some technical terms about air, the density of the air. uh, if your body's density becomes lighter than the density of air, you will float. Hmm? Like, for example, if you see sometimes the feather takes a very, very long time to come and touch the ground because the density of that feather is as equal to the density of air. Hmm? And if something, the density of the air is lighter, any object's density is lighter than the air, it goes up. Hmm? So imagine you can make your body lighter than the air. So you can just fly. You don't need anything. And the moment you want to land, you can make your body's density heavier than the air and you can land. Hmm? So this is a simple process, but we are unable to do that because we are not awarded by such benedictions. Hmm? There is Prapti Siddhi. Prapti Siddhi means you can, at one place, you can sit and acquire anything you want on this planet. There is Prakamya Siddhi. All types of desires can also be fulfilled if you have this Siddhi. Imagine Kardam Muni. We all have seen the story of Kardam Muni. Apart from being a devotee, he had great mystic power. He has such mystic power that when after his completing the meditation and his process of execution of Krishna consciousness, when he saw that his wife had a desire to roam around, Kardam Muni created an entire planet, not just planet, a huge air mansion, and that whole air mansion was floating in the air. And wherever Kardam Muni desired, that mansion was flying. So such mystic powers are there in the people by which we can understand what kind of quality of life they had. So like that, there are many siddhis. Ishitva siddhi, Vashitva siddhi, Kama Varshita siddhi. So like that, there are many, many siddhis. More than that also, you all know that at one point of time, Ravana had a Vimana. I think he had forcibly taken away that Vimana from a demigod, from Kubera. Yeah, Kubera had this Vimana called Pushpaka Vimana. So when Ravana, in his attempt to conquer the entire planetary systems, he defeated Kubera, or by forcefully just snatched away that Pushpaka Vimana. So Pushpaka Vimana had a special capability. Of course, definitely it can fly wherever the driver wants. You go in the seat of Pushpaka Vimana, you sit in the seat of the driver. If you tell take off, it will take off. Wherever you want, you can go. And wherever you say land, land. Now, apart from that, Pushpaka Vimana having this average capability, it had the capability of taking in as many people as you want. If, for example, we try to book flight tickets, we get a sometimes regret. When we book railway tickets, we get a regret that full, you can't book. But in Pushpaka Viman, that kind of facility was there, that how many of our people comes, they can come and sit. The moment one person goes and sit, another seat comes. The moment another person goes and sit, another seat manifests. So after killing Ravana, Lord Ramachandra got this Pushpaka Viman. Lord Ramachandra had actually promised Bharat Maharaj, and Bharat Maharaj actually came and met Lord Ramachandra also while his way to his forest. So Bharat Maharaj came to Ramachandra, and Bharat Maharaj asked Ramachandra that, please come back now. Father's promise you need not keep. So Ramachandra said, no, whatever father's promise is one thing. I have told that I will execute father's promise. So my promise is also there. It is not that just father's promise. So I have decided that I will go for Vanvas for 14 long years, and I will not come even one day before. So Bharat Maharaj said, okay, I would like to respect your promise. So you promise me that you will not come even one day late. 14 years completed, that same day you should come back. So to please Bharat Maharaj, Ramchandra had promised, okay, no problem. 14 years completed, I will not come one day before, one day after. I'll come back on that same day. So then, when Lord Ramachandra killed Ravana and he was in Sri Lanka, probably that same day marked the completion of 14 years. And Lord Ramchandra wanted to go back to Ayodhya because he has promised Bharata that I will not come even one day late. So there was a Pushpak Viman there. So Lord Ramchandra got into Pushpak Viman, Mother Sita got into Pushpak Viman. And all the Vanaras who had been with Lord Ramachandra for that last 1 year of time, it was a great risk on their lives that they had supported Lord Ramachandra. So they all saw Ramachandra going off. Their hearts were not contented with the idea that only Lord Ramachandra goes. Lord Ramachandra was seeing, others are joining the Pushpak Viman. Pushpak Viman is expanding. Practically everyone, almost everyone who was there with Lord Ramachandra, they all got into Pushpak Viman. And even after having that, Pushpak Viman did not had any starting problem, a fuel recharge problem, nothing. Pushpak Viman just took off and just landed in Ayodhya. So such were the mystic powers of our Puranas and special capabilities of various things. So we understand that the world we are living in, we are making great endeavors to make this material world into a happier place by either technological advancement or some mechanical arrangements. But we don't know that a great science, great amazing technology existed even many, many years before. And these mystic powers are very, very rare for people to even think. With great difficulty, we have made some technology to fly from one place to another place. But can anyone make an attempt to make shoes by which you can go anywhere? Not possible. So, however, Prithu Maharaj, being a special personality, he has been awarded by all these presentations. And by awarding such presentations, they are marking an appearance of a great personality who will come and relieve them of all their sufferings. Just like Vamana also, when he appeared, so many demigods came and offered various gifts to Vamana. So similarly, when a great personality, when we see a great personality, it is generally a reciprocation of our expression by offering them gifts. So the whole essence of last few verses is that a great personality has appeared and they are welcoming the appearance of Maharaj Prithu with great special ornaments, special gifts. And also today's particular verse also explains about how sometimes the gifts of demigods may be very, very mystical in its nature. So this is what I thought we'll discuss in today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Further, all you will see there were prayers and how King Prithu Maharaj wants to establish his ruling force in future chapters. So thank you all very much. Anybody has any questions or any comments, you can please do so.
That yogi came to Srila Prabhupada's house and his father was also there. So he gifted some pomegranate from Kandahar, Afghanistan. So Prabhupada could understand at that time the power of a yogi. And Prabhupada also mentions that at that time he came to know that some of the yogis, they could take their bath At the same time, in the four directions, Rameswaram, Dwarka, Puri, and Badrinath, like that in the Ganga. So that was also another display of mystic perfection by the yogis. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had dismissed this yogic power because as a devotee he could understand that the power of devotion is far greater than the power of the yogis. And he was telling that nowadays, this by scientific advancement, most of these yogic perfections have been realized, have been achieved by the modern scientists. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati gave an example that sometimes yogi, they can walk on water. They can go on the other side of the river just by walking on the water. So that is very wonderful. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was saying, if I give 2 paisa to a boatman, he'll take me to the other side of the river. So this mystic power is just 2 paisa worth. That's why he could understand that these are actually not, they are wonderful mystic powers, but they can be achieved by other means also.
Hare Krishna. So yeah, these mystic powers, although they may seem very enamoring for a very regular person, but far beyond the power of having this mystic power is the power of devotion. So devotees of Krishna consciousness movement, they understand that this is not the goal of life, achieving some mystic powers. The goal of life is to achieve Krishna Prem. That is more valuable, more rare, and that is the real goal of life than these mystic powers. So thank you very much, Anandmaya Prabhu. Hare Krishna. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की.